Hey there, listeners. This is Carrie
and Mackenzie.
Before today's episode, we want to remind you that the content in this episode is not intended as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment.
The use of the information on today's podcast is at the user's own risk. Listeners should contact their doctor or other qualified medical providers for medical advice.
Now roll the intro. Thanks for listening. Please enjoy. We are quiet people today.
I know. Well,
You've been at work.
Yes.
My face is falling off. It'll probably just slough right off while we talk.
That reminds me, oh my God, what movie am I thinking of now? Oh, I'm thinking of Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark, where at the end of the movie, their skin just sloughs off,
Because they've seen the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
Or God or somebody.
Talk about traumatizing as a child.
I mean, that would make you want to go to church, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta go be nice to this guy or he'll melt your face off. That was my whole reason for go. I didn't want to have my face melted off.
Yeah, talk about dire consequences, right, of not believing. Indiana Jones is one of my dad's favorite movies. So actually my exposure as a child to movies was through him, which is just interesting. It's an interesting lens to be exposed to movies.
Does he like action and
he likes
kind of like everything?
He likes, let me tell you a couple of my dad's favorite movies, okay? So Indiana Jones. My dad loves him some Clockwork Orange, which is on our list of movies to watch. He's also a big, he's a Stanley Kubrick fan, so we're talking The Shining. We're talking about, what's his face? What's his name? Oh, Barry Lyndon. Have you ever seen that movie, Barry Lyndon?
I have not.
Okay. It's very long. It's like 3 hours long.
Yeah, the minute I saw the runtime, and I'm not a huge Kubrick fan.
It's a period piece. It's about, so he's a Barry Lyndon fan. He's also a Being There fan. Have you ever seen that movie, Being There?
Who's that with?
I have no idea.
Being There? What's the story? You don't know?
No. What is the story? It's been a long time since I've seen it, but basically a gardener, is his name Quincy? Mr. Quincy? I don't know. There's a gardener, is the main character. He lives a simple life. His employer dies, and he has to, go out into the world, but he's just known living on this estate. It's an interesting movie. It's a conceptual, but my dad loves Being There. He also loves, what does he love? Forrest Gump. What else? My dad has eclectic tastes.
I loved Forrest Gump the first 150 times.
Yeah.
However, now I see it on TV. I know it so well, and I did love it. I can't watch it anymore because I'm I know every line.
You can't. It's on TV so much.
I hate it when they do that.
It kills it. When it gets played too much. But yeah, Forrest Gump's a good movie. Jenny!
Oh, yeah. Peter Sellers was in Being There.
I think he plays the gardener.
Yes.
Okay. What's his name? What's his character's name? If you're Googling it.
Melvin Douglas?
It can't be. That's what it is? It's not something
like
Quincy?
No, that can't be. Sometimes I really wonder about my algorithm on my YouTube.
What videos am I being shown right now? Mine's so specific. So it's this is what my YouTube is. It's Emily D. Baker, because I'm following the Karen Reed story, and so I'm just watching that. And then it's basically all of that. Anything having to do with Karen Reed, because I'm watching Emily, any associated videos that are other lawyers or other talking heads about Karen Reed pop up. And then the other thing is Minecraft videos from my children, and then also to Lightning McQueen and Miss Rachel. That is my YouTube.
Madam, have you thought of getting your, just sectioning yourself off?
No, I do. No, we each do. Each of me and my children have
But they don't
YouTube
know
accounts.
how to separate it?
No, but on my phone, it's hard for me to bring up. You have to have the YouTube Kids app if you're going to do a YouTube Kids account. And I refuse to put YouTube Kids on my phone. So if I'm looking up videos on my phone, so if we're out and about and I want to show my children one of the videos they want to watch, I pull it up, and so it affects my algorithm. So that's what I got.
Well, on the side here, I'm looking at, the queue.
Yeah.
I have, stuff about Sister Wives. One of the children killed themselves last year.
Yeah.
So they're talking about it this season. So I don't watch the show, but I watch the talking heads.
Was that Janelle's child? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It was really sad.
Yeah.
So I've been keeping up with that. But also...
Oh, it's going to be good if you snorted.
How to turn a child custody exchange into a felony in no time. Entitled Queen of the Hotel Smacks Customers. Psycho girlfriend realizes she isn't going home. Yeah,
What
I
Never seen a suspect. Laugh at a detective's joke, only to realize they shouldn't be laughing.
Carrie, turn it off before we get hit with copyright.
Well, no, now I'm intrigued.
You have to save it for later. We have stuff to do.
But what about the psycho girlfriend?
You are going to have to, on your own time, madam, you will have to look at that.
We can cut that out.
I don't know. Maybe we'll keep it in. Who knows? It's only like 10 seconds. Anywho.
Kenzie, why are we here?
We're here for the Much Madness podcast.
Woo.
I'm Mackenzie, if you don't already know.
I'm Carrie.
If you don't already know.
By this point, if anyone is listening, you should know.
Yes. I've had people recently come up to me and tell me that they've listened to the last few episodes, so.
Good.
People have different episodes. One person told me they liked our Rain Man episode, which was the last one. I had another person tell me today that they liked our To the Bone episodes better, so
I would just tell them, keep it to yourself if you like them or not. Just let me know.
Yeah.
Which ones you enjoyed.
And I had another person, this was a nurse I used to work with. She listened to a couple of episodes and she said she found herself arguing with us about stuff. And I was like, great. And I said, are you going to share those thoughts? And she was like, oh, you want me to comment? And I'm like, yeah,
yes, please.
Yes. So if you're listening to this, we have social media. We have, and I'm going to get into that here in a minute because we're going to talk about Mental Health Awareness Month and our appreciation that we're going to show. But we have social media accounts on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We also have a website. There's not too many places on the website for you to comment. We do have a box for movie suggestions, but there's also places on the streaming services. So, for example, Spotify has a comment section on our episodes, and we've had a couple people leave comments, and definitely we want to have the interaction and the conversation. If you disagree with me and Carrie, tell us. We are not experts. We are not end-all be-all authorities on these movies. We are just two people with opinions, and obviously like to hear ourselves talk. So
and we love to share those opinions with the general public.
Her and I like to drone on and on about things that we find interesting. And if you find it interesting too, but again, don't share our opinions.
Let us know, because it might totally open some things up for us that we hadn't realized before.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, commenting on episodes, or the podcast is on YouTube. You can find it at the Much Madness Podcast. If you search that on YouTube, it should pop up. I think all of our episodes are up there, but there's comment section on there too. Now, I don't think
anyone's commented there.
Not there, and I don't think anyone's commented on Apple Podcasts, but I would have to double check. Apple Podcasts, I think, lets you leave a comment, but it has to be part of like a review. The difference between that and so Spotify lets you leave comments on individual episodes, as does YouTube. So, if you don't want to make it as part of a review, because I think that's what Apple Podcasts does, is you have to leave a review. If you don't want to do that, you can comment on the other ones, but please, we want to have the thoughts.
We love thoughts.
Right. Oh, and I had somebody ask me, this is like a farm rep at work asked me
what medication we needed. You guys need something.
Yeah. But they were asking me about the format of the podcast because they hadn't listened to it yet. And they were like, do you have people calling in? And I was like, we do not.
That would be the never-ending show.
That, and we'd have to have a dedicated line. You and I would have to have a dedicated schedule, which has not come to fruition yet. So
today is the first day
of maybe a dedicated schedule. Well, this is a trial run. We're gonna see how this goes.
Give it a month. Let's see how we do.
Right. We are going to try that, but I wanted to follow up briefly over something what we covered in our last episode. So our last episode was Rain Man. We covered autism. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to follow up with that because after we posted that episode, there were some more comments about autism in the general public because Robert Kennedy Jr. made some comments at like a press conference. I don't even know where he was at, but he was speaking publicly about people with autism and what they're trying
environmental.
Yeah, well
and they want to do a registry of everyone who has been diagnosed.
Yeah, because they want to track, they're trying to find the causation of autism. Okay, so they're trying to find the causation because it's a chronic health condition, and his opinion, along with a lot of people that are under his leadership now, are of the opinion that there's got to be something unrelated to genetics causing autism. even though the research that has been done since as we talked about the last episode, there's been research being done since like the 40s, 50s on this. Again, early research wasn't as robust as it is now, but we didn't have all the technology that we do now with computer analyzing and genetics. We didn't have all of that, but they are looking for some kind of environmental cause, like Carrie said. And to make his point more poignant, Robert Kennedy Jr. was speaking on the severity of autism, making a argument for why it's needed to study it because of how severe and how impactful the disease process, whatever you want to say, is. And he was talking about extreme cases of autism. He was talking about people who have autism not being able to do things. And it just really frustrated me on a number of levels, not only because I work in the
mental... That's a stereotype.
Exactly. But the other thing is, too, as we pointed out in our last episode with talking about Rain Man, that was one depiction of autism, but the whole thing of that movie was showing that Ray is not he's not his stereotype. He's a human being, and he has value in somebody's life beyond what he can do or can't do. But what Robert Kennedy Jr. was talking about all of these things with people who are on the spectrum, who are on the severe side of it, all the things that they cannot do. And he was making it seem like they are such a burden to society when, one, a lot of the statistics that he puts out there are not accurate. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this conversation and talking about this topic to refute all of the statistics that he put out there because they're not accurate, but a lot of his statistics are not accurate. I don't know where he's getting his data from, but he made it seem like the descriptions and the points he was trying to make of, again, the things that people with autism can't do, he was making it seem like that is the common experience of someone on the spectrum, when the majority of people who are on the spectrum are mid to high functioning. There are fewer severe cases. It's just very unfortunate. And I wanted to bring that up again because I want to point to our episode and what we talk about Ray and how the fact is that's a movie that's 40 years old, almost 40. No, is it 40? Yeah, almost 40. And even 40 years ago, I think people knew back then that they knew that they had something special on their hands because, again, Ray's a human being.
Well, and I think it's dangerous when you come up with an answer and then go find statistics to match.
That's not how science is supposed to work. No,
and you're also not supposed to listen to the worm in your head. You're like, and that's going to be cut.
Yeah. Or I'm leaving it in there.
He
has talked publicly about possibly having brain worms, so I don't know.
It's like, how seriously do we take that?
Why haven't you gotten them removed if they're there? Or maybe he has. I don't know. I really don't care.
Tequila is a dangerous drug. Do not swallow the worm. They will crawl into your brain.
Yeah. I did have a shot of tequila one time that had a worm in it. I didn't get the worm, but...
That's gross.
Yeah. Someone got it for me. I don't know. I did it. It didn't taste any different than other tequila, so I don't know.
RFK Jr., when you think of what his family has stood for in this country, and he makes very little sense to me. I don't know why he's in the position he is, except it was promised to him, I'm sure.
Yeah.
He is not a doctor. He's not a scientist. He doesn't know how these things work, but he's in charge.
Yeah.
And they're focusing on things, not that autism isn't important, but these are things that have, figured out is the right way to say it, but these are things that have been studied for decades.
Yeah.
They're saying COVID vaccines probably won't be available when they normally are next year because they're not paying any attention to vaccines.
Yeah. Well, because they don't have a lot of confidence in them. That's what his leadership, the people that are in his department, they don't have confidence in vaccines. They're doubting their efficacy and they're doubting...
And yet all of those people are alive because of vaccines.
I can't, that's a whole thing I can't. I will get on a soapbox and I won't get off of it.
But there are weird things there. He cut the head off a whale and put it on the top of his minivan with his kids in it. He dumped that dead bear in Central Park. I don't know what's happening, but his sister Carrie, who is the youngest, I believe, on social media,
right,
said she wrote a very long...
Was it like a chastise?
Oh, it was, we do not claim him anymore. We do not want... There's something wrong.
One thing that we are going to discuss is that May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We want to thank all of our listeners for listening, and engaging with us and, joining us on this journey of our podcast. And as a way of showing our appreciation for our listeners, Carrie and I are going to be organizing on our social media accounts a giveaway of some gift cards for celebrating Mental Health Awareness Month. And we will be posting those online. We're going to do one that's on Instagram, and we're going to do one on TikTok. I think that might be it. We might just be doing 2. We might do 3. I would just pay attention to our social medias. Again, so our social media accounts are at Much Madness Pod on Instagram. On TikTok, it's at much.madness.podc. On Facebook, you can find us Much Madness Podcast. If you just search it in the search box, you'll find us. We have our website, which is www.muchmadnesspodcast.com. Yeah, we also have a Blue Sky account too. I don't think we're not doing anything on Blue Sky other than maybe just announcing episodes, but we'll definitely put posts up about, celebrating Mental Health Awareness Month. We'll also do notifications about the giveaways on the other accounts, but yeah, I think that's about it. But yeah, I would just look out for those things. We're gonna post them when we have episodes coming out, and so there'll be separate posts about it. But yeah, there'll be directions on how to enter for the giveaways. You're going to need to engage with the social media. It will be all there on the post. I'm not gonna reiterate it here now, but
can I try for one of the gift cards?
You and I are exempt.
Man, we've discussed some really nice ones, I think are.
You and I are not allowed to win them. I think probably our immediate family members would not be allowed to win them. But
that would assume that they would go to every single social media.
I know. Hey, you never know. Big Jim might be jonesing for a gift card. So, but our extended family would be fine. I mean, these are our rules. We're not like a corporation. There's not like anything that we have to worry about, like conflict of interest. So
yeah,
we are a organization of 2, so it's just me and you. It would be
and honest to God, I'm barely functioning, so
you're a ghost of a person.
I really am. It's the cortisone shots in my knees, people. My face is a flaming bright red from the cortisone.
I wasn't going to say anything until you pointed it out yourself.
I made her feel.
Look at my face.
I made her feel my face. I'm like, feel it.
It does feel warm, but I mean, Carrie, you're as lovely as ever.
Well, I'm a delicate flower, as we all know.
A delicate flower that if you touch it, it bruises instantly and wilts.
Oh my God. Our poor little dog, Georgia, had to have 8 teeth pulled last Friday. She just went in for a cleaning. They said, oh yeah, they look
Does
great.
she have any teeth left?
Apparently they have I think they said 42 or 45 teeth.
That's how many teeth dogs have?
Yeah.
Oh
so,
my God.
And she's lost 17.
So she's only got a few teeth left?
I've got one toothless dog up there.
I was going to say,
she has 4 little front teeth and then nothing on the sides.
That poor girl can't chew anything.
But she'd been not feeling well. But as soon as we had that done, she's been fine.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we've discussed all of the things up and coming and...
Well, do we have any corrections or apologies?
Not this week.
I do.
Oh, you do? What's your apology?
My correction and apology is I had made a comment during Mommy Dearest.
Oh, you did? Okay.
That Christina Crawford had made the comment that everything, a lot of those scenes were exaggerated and that the choking and the wire hanger things had not happened.
Oh.
That I misspoke.
Okay.
She said they happened, but they were not as severe as the movie portrayed.
I shouldn't laugh, but it's okay, so the correction is they did in fact happen, but they weren't as severe. I mean, Christina, are you minimizing your own trauma? What?
Listen, let's all do it. Let's all minimize our trauma and then try to just make it through the day.
Girl, you can just say that they happened.
Well, I guess that I had presented it as she was saying none of that had happened.
Okay.
But it had happened. She said they really exaggerated it in the movie.
Maybe they portrayed it correctly. I don't know,
but I felt guilty, people.
No, I mean, Carrie, my comments are not having anything to do with you. I feel something for Christina now.
Yeah.
That those things did happen. Because again, I didn't do my research. I didn't look into this like I should have, but.
She really does minimize it.
I mean, people with trauma do that though. It's all part of the bigger picture. Interesting.
And even better, everyone has trauma. Every last one of us.
Yes. Whether we admit it or not. And then, it's how it affects us too. Because I've had people talk to me over the years, why do I suffer with this when I have people who've gone through something that they think is more horrific than what they've gone through, and they're not like me. These are the questions I get. And I'm like, listen, it's, we can't predict how things are going to impact us. That is kind of like the way that trauma works. Like, we don't know how we're going to be on the other end of it. And so some minor things can have large impacts and some bigger things can have small impacts, but it's just like how every individual person is. So
Yeah.
we are discussing this week the movie Lars and the Real Girl.
Woot!
I know. This is such a lovely movie.
I love this movie, and I think it's interesting how many, like, online, people trying to diagnose him.
Oh, yeah.
And trying to figure out.
But they bring up a diagnosis in the movie. I was going to discuss it. His brother Gus pulls it up at work when he's Googling. Or he does Ask Jeeves. Did you know that? You remember how we brought up Ask Jeeves in our one episode? His brother goes on AskJeeves.com. Anyway, but Gus pulls up something.
So online, people are saying he's either autistic or schizoaffective.
No, absolutely not. Not schizoaffective.
And to me, okay, let's before we get to all of that, let's just work our way there.
Okay.
Not get into the weird and deep parts, right?
Okay.
Okay, so let's go with the cast.
Okay, you go ahead.
So the cast of Lars and the Real Girl is Ryan Gosling plays Lars, Emily Mortimer, who's one of my favorite English actresses.
I love her.
She plays his sister-in-law Karen. His brother Gus is played by Paul Sneider. Patricia Clarkson plays the town doctor and psychologist Dagmar.
I know, I love her. Another great actress.
I just saw a snippet of her in Shutter Island the other day.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
And
she's
I was
in
like,
that.
oh my gosh, she's so good in that. And then Kelli Garner is Margot, who I remember from a very intense Law and Order SVU episode.
I know, she seemed familiar to me and I couldn't place her. I can't remember.
Whenever you can't place someone,
Law and Order.
It's Law and Order.
It's got to be. Everybody in this whole world has been on that TV show.
And
anybody who's good, we'll just say. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they're in New York with all those great stage actors.
Well, I watched an interview about Law & Order the other day. It was I forget which actor it was, but it was a well-known actor who was talking about how because the show's filmed in New York, it's just so convenient to get your name out there if you're chosen as an extra or like as one of these characters for the episode because you're hired for the episode. You're not like a regular character like Mariska or Ice-T. So you get to go on the episode and then you can do your other projects. Like if you're going to go do a Broadway show or if you're going to do something else, it's just not just SVU, but like all of the Law and Orders have been really, I think, helpful for at least the acting community because people can get on an episode at a time or whatever. But
yeah, and they also have these amazing guest stars like Robin Williams.
Dude, I mean, that's
Martin Short.
I mean, you can just say those two. And actually, the funny thing is they both played villains, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And also, too, Whoopi Goldberg is on there and played a villain.
I kind of like that they can play people against type.
Yeah.
And they have no problem with it.
Yeah.
Okay, back to Lars and the Real Girl. It was written by Nancy Oliver. It was her debut as a film writer for a movie, but she had also worked in 2005. After this was written, she became a co-producer and writer on HBO's 6 Feet Under.
Oh, yeah.
She also True Blood.
Oh, mm-hmm.
One of my favorites.
Yep.
They said that in Hollywood there are scripts that are considered so good, but people there's going to be difficulty in getting them made, or it really takes a special kind of director to decide to take it on. And that's where Lars and the Real Girl sat for a few years.
Yeah.
And that's from moviemaker.com.
Okay. Well, yeah, definitely the story itself is just so particular and so quirky. Like, quirky is just the way that I would put it. It's heartwarming. It is not your typical feature film, I think.
Or love story.
No.
Or anything. It's unlike anything.
No. Yeah, it falls into its own category of being a very unique story, but also with important messages and important themes that you and I are going to discuss here in a minute. So, right at the beginning, it's got to be, you don't know where this is taking place, this movie. The location's never said, I don't think, right? I don't ever get a town or a state.
In Minnesota.
Do you get that just because of any accents that people are doing, or?
No, I guess I assumed Minnesota because Dagmar, the doctor, had told Karen, the sister-in-law, that she was also a psychologist, which is recommended because they are so far north.
Okay. It's got to be Midwest.
And
anyway,
isolated.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm guessing, like, you get up into the Dakotas and
yeah,
all of
it's
that.
got to be Midwest or like the Upper Plains or something. Somewhere where there's like a true winter. It could even be New York. It could be like upstate New York, but are you going to Google it right now? Okay, we're going to get our question answered once Carrie Googles. But at the very beginning of the movie, you see that it's wintertime, it's snowing, and that's where we meet Lars. And you just see him staring out of a window, and you realize that he's in a garage, which is his home. And it's the garage that is on the property of a house. And it's just, it sets the scenes and like the tempo and pace of the movie so interestingly and so perfect because his sister-in-law, Karen, who's played by Emily Mortimer, just like comes out and tries to engage with Lars in his house, even though he's staring out looking at the snow falling. And he tries to avoid Emily, or not Emily, Karen is her name.
Yeah.
I think it's just so funny. And she's trying to get his attention.
And my God, she tried to tackle him. She tried
Yes.
just to get him to come to dinner or breakfast or anything.
Right. And she's obviously pregnant. You see like a little baby bump.
It's Wisconsin.
Oh, is it Wisconsin? Okay. That fits. That tracks.
Yeah, it
so
does.
At the beginning, you can tell that she's pregnant and she's like trying to interact with her brother-in-law, and it's difficult. We see this at the beginning, and we get to meet like other people that are in Lars's life. So we see Lars, we see Karen, the sister-in-law, we see his brother Gus.
We see him in the community. He goes to church. He has a job, which I assume is some sort of weird government job.
Yeah, because they have like the cubicles and the office stuff. But I wonder if it's like some company or something though.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just trying to think, what is something far north that would be an employer for a small town?
I don't know. If it is, no, Duluth is in Minnesota, right? I was thinking like, I don't know. It seems like it could be a company because I can't remember like the name of anything, but then what we see in some of the opening scenes is he goes to work and the receptionist, which I forget what her name is, she invites him to the birthday party.
Was it Grace?
That seems about right. I'd have to look it up and I just don't feel like looking through my notes.
What I really liked was how, even though Lars is standoffish and awkward, everyone still tried to invite him and include him. They all talked to him.
Right.
Granted, they shook their head a lot after he left. Like, what is that?
Right. I mean, you can see people in the beginning of the movie, they're trying to engage with Lars, and he's not engaging with them. He's not, like, agreeing to, like, the things that they're suggesting, like doing things outside of church, or, like, Karen trying to get him to come to a meal, which I think it's so cute that Karen and Gus have a bet as part of the storyline where Gus is like, yeah, I bet you he's not going to do it. And Karen, like, is so hopeful. She's like, no, I think he's going to agree this time. And then when he doesn't, he's like, you owe me $10 or whatever.
And maybe it's just women tend to be more nurturing.
Yeah.
But it was the sister-in-law going to the garage, the sister-in-law waiting for him, the sister-in-law inviting him.
Right, which that changes by the end of the story, which we'll talk about here in a little bit. But Carrie, I laughed out loud. Tell me if you know what I'm talking about. So early in the movie, it's in the first couple scenes, right? So there's in the scene where his friend, I forget what her name is.
Margot?
No, not Margot. Well, it involves Margot, but the older woman,
Mrs. Gruner?
Mrs. Gruner. Yeah. Remember how she's talking about how it's her turn to take the flowers from church to the nursing home or something? Yeah. And then she hands it to Lars because Margot is coming up to him. I laughed out loud when he's holding the flowers and then he just chucks them when Margot is coming up. Like, he literally launches them because she's approaching and he's holding them. Yeah, and then it's,
no.
Oh my God, I laughed out loud. Like, and I forgot about that part of the movie from when I watched it like years ago, because I watched it when it came out, and I totally forgot about that, but I laughed out loud. I was like, oh my God, that is such somebody that has such social anxiety would just do.
I watched this with my dad, because,
because Jim participates, yeah.
And most of these he's not watched. And here I'm laughing at stuff.
Yeah.
And he's completely silent. And I'm like, are you okay? And he's like, I think this is sad. I don't think it's funny.
Your dad.
He's like, I just think
it's a different perspective.
Yeah.
It is sad. There's a level of sadness in this movie.
Oh, absolutely. It permeates. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like a genetic cycle of sadness.
Mm-hmm. I just love that part of the movie.
And Karen is also like this go-between.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how the further it goes, you start to hear snippets from Gus.
Yeah.
Because Gus, What do you think? He's about 10 years older?
No, I wouldn't say. He's definitely older. I would maybe say 5. I wouldn't say 10.
Because he left the house because of Lars' mother dying.
Yeah.
In childbirth. That when he hit 18, he left and left Lars with their dad. And he said, and he was here for years with my dad by himself.
Yeah, but I don't know if he's like 10 years older. So Gus definitely left when he was 18, but I think...
So Lars is 27, so that does make him a little, maybe 34, 35?
Yeah, I would say he's probably like 5 to 7 years older.
And so Gus has a lot of guilt.
Yeah.
I think. And I think that's why he's standoffish.
Yeah, but we don't get that guilt, though, later.
Until the end.
Yeah, well, till the middle to the end.
Yeah, because, yeah.
Well, and this is, okay, we're going to learn about the guilt here in a minute, but what I think is just interesting is that, because I'm going to get back to it, because I want to bring up what Gus is Googling about his brother when the event happens, but I think it's interesting that Karen says that she feels like something is off with Lars. In the first few scenes, when she's trying to invite him to their house for a meal to spend time with them, and he says no, and then Karen is just basically talking about how she has like this feeling that she can't shake, that something is up with Lars.
So when she talked about that, so my reaction was, okay, he's been awkward, but he's never been this bad.
Yeah.
And she said it had just been in the last, 4 months.
Right. Well, and she's thinking it has to do with the pregnancy. And
Which
I mean,
it does.
It does. I think it has to do with that.
In a roundabout way.
Yeah, I mean, it could have triggered things.
Well, and he did say, when he was talking to Dagmar, that Karen wasn't safe.
Yeah.
He's like, she's not safe. Well,
because he's probably thinking about his mother. I mean, it's probably... I mean, he didn't
And I mean, the scarf he wears was his baby blanket.
Right, that his mom made him.
He never met her.
Yeah. This is where the story takes off.
Lars is told by a coworker.
Yeah, which I forget.
His cubicle mate, who is just so gross.
Yeah. What's his name? Do you have it written down?
Was he Jerry?
That sounds about right. We'll correct ourselves next time if we're wrong.
Yeah, because, we can always just do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Joshua Peace.
Yeah, but that's the actor's name, right?
Right, his character's name was Jerry.
Okay. Yeah, Jerry's gross. So...
He came upon...
No, because he was asking Lars about what he thought about...
These sex dolls.
Yeah, because Jerry is Googling and looking at sex dolls at work, on a work computer. Why this guy isn't fired, I don't know. But obviously their IT people are not... Nobody is monitoring Jerry's internet activity at work.
No.
Did you know that there was a statistic that... I'm probably making this up. There was I'm just gonna be real. I read somewhere, this is a few years ago, that they surveyed, this is men, they didn't survey women, because I'd be interested to see what women were doing at work, but they surveyed men, and they said
they're avoiding the men, is what they're doing.
Well, they said that almost a third of men admit that they have looked at pornography at work. Like a third. It was almost like 30%. I wonder if that's an accurate statistic. I wonder if I'm making that up. I'm going to have to Google this.
I'm Googling it right now.
Okay. You have to keep me accountable. We don't have any fact checkers to keep either of us accountable. We have to make sure we do it with ourselves. What does the internet say, Carrie?
Things that I'm hoping aren't true. Okay.
I mean, no shame in if you're going to look up pornography, but I don't know why about doing it at work. That is just...
Oh.
It's inappropriate for one, but it's also too inviting a lot of scrutiny and questions.
Okay.
Even if you're doing it on your break, why? Why are you doing it at work?
60%.
60%? It's weird with this survey done.
This one was done in 22.
Okay.
But there was also one done in 2014. And
I think that's the one I'm thinking
and
of.
that was 63.
Oh, so it came down a little bit. Wow, I don't know why I thought it was a
Well,
third.
and this Craig Jackson, a professor of occupational health psychology at Birmingham City University in the UK, said, I think we all have this view that if someone's accessing porn at work, they are somehow secretly masturbating at the desk, or they're disappearing off to the toilets to masturbate. And he's like, it's more of a distraction.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting take there, doctor.
It's a stress relief or coping mechanism while at work.
I don't know. I just think that leads to addiction issues potentially. So I don't know.
Porn becomes a way of coping with how mundane and unpleasant the reality of their work is.
So then we have to have a conversation about, like, why is your coping skill looking at porn? Like, I don't...
Read Jane Austen. It's like, bring a book.
Go on a walk.
Get your Kindle.
Yeah. Yeah, read it.
Go outside.
Touch a tree. Touch some grass.
Please.
So, yeah, I mean, so Jerry's looking up these sex dolls at work because I don't know if he's going to order one. I don't know. He's just showing Lars all of the different options.
I think he just came across it and was like, huh.
Yeah. So...
Jerry is a lonely man.
Yeah, well, Lars is too, because what ends up happening is Lars orders a doll.
And these are not cheap.
Mm-mm.
Lisa Ling had a documentary. She went to Japan.
Okay.
Where they make these dolls.
Okay.
She met the men who had ordered a few of them.
Uh-huh.
It was fascinating.
Yeah.
Try explaining that to your mother. What are you watching? Sex dolls.
Yeah. A documentary, Mom. It's a documentary.
It's a documentary about sex dolls.
Yeah. There's a documentary about everything.
But it was very interesting to hear the men talk about. It's almost like if you are an incel, just get a doll.
Yeah.
Love her, clean her, do whatever you need to do.
Well, and that's what we end up hearing about in this movie, because so this is what happens. Lars orders the doll. She arrives, and his brother Gus and Karen, they don't know what he's ordered, unless he's got a big package, like a large box. And
Fragile. That's what I think every time.
Absolutely. Well, the package looks like that. It was a crate. We see
Yeah.
it. We see it on the in the big screen. He assembles her, or if she's already assembled, I don't know. But she comes out of the box.
They come out of the box ready to go.
Well, yeah, and she's got her outfit, her very flashy outfit. But Lars brings, her name's Bianca. He brings Bianca to dinner.
Finally. Karen gets her wish.
Yeah, Karen's so excited that...
She's so excited that he has a girlfriend, that he's bringing something.
Right.
So he's bringing someone, and it turns out that she's actually a missionary / nurse.
Yeah, that's what I wrote down, that she was raised by nuns.
Yep. Doing the Lord's work.
Yeah, but it's so funny that they're sitting there, Karen and Gus, they're at the dinner table with...
They are flabbergasted.
They don't know what to do.
But they don't make fun of him.
No.
They don't go off on him like, what the... right. Oh, you're gross, or you're an idiot, and why have you done this?
I think Gus is really holding back. I think Karen doesn't know what to do.
But she knows that she's not going to be mean.
No, because
but
finally
I think if Gus had been alone...
I think he would have been like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of says that to Karen alone when they finally are alone, and they're like, what the hell's going on? But,
Oh, and Bianca needed a wheelchair.
She did, because she could not walk. But the thing that you can see the contrast is, like, up until this point, and again, this is probably 10, 15 minutes into the movie. It's early on that Bianca appears as a character, but Lars is suddenly smiling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he has Bianca at the table. He's speaking for her. He's like, getting up close to her mouth, this doll's mouth. To listen. And he's telling them what she's saying. But he's finally smiling. And so I think that's one of the reasons, too, that Gus and Karen don't say anything. They're like, okay, he's finally here at the table. He's interacting with us. Yes, there is this life-size sex doll. Mm-hmm. We do not know why. Yeah.
But it brings him... I think it takes care of a lot of that social anxiety. Mm-hmm. Because there's not really focus on him. It's all on Bianca. All he does is talk about Bianca.
Right.
Karen thinks that she should take Bianca to Dagmar.
Yeah.
To get her checked out.
Well, Gus is like, we have to take him to a doctor. And
but she's like,
Karen suggests to go to that Karen go. Mm-hmm. Or Karen suggests that Bianca
and
go.
my favorite thing is, like, when they come out of her office... Lars is out there and there's a kid sitting in her lap and he's like, she loves kids.
Yep. There are so many funny moments in this movie that are just like, it has to be your sense of humor. Mm-hmm. I know it's not everybody's sense of humor, but there are funny moments. One funny moment was, this is before Bianca goes to the doctor, but Lars tells Gus and Karen, hey, Lars is Lars is religious. He goes to church.
She is a
missionary.
Nurse. Whatever.
But she tells them that, according to their beliefs, like, Bianca cannot stay with him. And so he asks if she can stay in the house, and they say that's fine. And so then when they get her upstairs and she's in her own room and they put her to bed, I think it's so funny that, like, Karen is so curious. She, like, looks up her skirt.
Listen, I would too.
I mean, like, she's like, is it almost like a Barbie where there's no genitalia? Or is it, like, an anatomically correct? And she tells Gus she's anatomically correct.
And they put her in his mom's room.
Oh, is it? I didn't. I thought it was just the pink room, right? Isn't that what they...
At one point, he mentions that it was his mother's.
Okay.
To her. But...
I don't remember that part, but I'm sure it's true.
I mean, who knows at this point? I might just make up my own movie.
I know, you gotta watch the movie to even believe what mean carriers... But... so then what unfolds is just this lovely story, because you would think that because Lars is treating Bianca like she's a real person, you would think that everyone else around him would just automatically reject it, right? Like it really goes counterintuitive to, like, reality and logic. But we don't see that.
No. And they go to the church. Gus and Karen go to the church saying, this is what's happening. We just ask that you just love him and accept him and his relationship with Bianca until we figure out what's going on.
Well, and that's kind of what happened at Dagmar's office. So Dr. Dagmar, she recommended to Karen and Gus, because they saw her after Bianca and Lars, had their appointment, and we see, like, not operating room, oh my God, the exam room and things like that. But Dagmar's recommendation is, like, just to go with it, don't challenge it. However, I want to kind of talk about, like, maybe do some reality checking, because the one thing we have to kind of keep in mind is this is a story. The producers of this movie, like the actors, they're telling us a story. However, the thing to keep in mind, I think Dagmar's recommendations of going along with Lars's delusion, because that is what it is, and I'm going to kind of get into that here in a second. I think it helps him in this story, in this kind of artificial and obviously created world. Like, we have this created story and timeline and setting and all this stuff. Like, the acceptance of Bianca and, like, what you and I are going to talk about here in a little bit, like, that has a message. Okay. However, when someone has a delusion like Lars's, in reality, he probably would have been hospitalized. I'm just going to be honest, because it's just odd to have someone who has a doll who they believe is a real person, and they're trying to talk to other people about it being a real person.
I would just like to point out that as a child, no one ever told me to stop talking for my dolls.
Right, exactly. So it's a thing, it's a child behavior. And so suddenly, the reason...
He's, like, regressing there?
Right. So this is the reason I think he would be hospitalized, in reality. Not because the doll is a harm to him, or he's a harm to the doll, or anything like that. But you have somebody who is functioning on some certain level and is behaving at their baseline, they're normal, and then suddenly this is happening. I think people would get concerned about him and want him to be checked out at the hospital. Now, he goes and talks to Dr. Dagmar, which is all great and stuff like that, but I think, like, if I were in her position, I probably would have him be assessed at the hospital.
My thought on that is they are a small, isolated northern town.
Right. Yeah.
How close are they to anything? Or is it kind of like, it makes no sense to have to drive 4 hours to get to, wherever.
I know.
So I was wondering if it was just like, this is it. This is the care in the community that you're going to get.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that could be some kind of explanation for why it doesn't happen, but I think it's going with the storyline, because again, the community is kind of a piece here of the tale, like the bigger themes.
It's like what you would hope any small town would be like, but it's the exact opposite.
This is an ideal situation.
It really is.
Yeah.
Which I think says a lot for Lars, that people just loved him.
Right. And that he couldn't see it himself.
And
which
the
is
older
why...
ladies in the church who probably were friends with his mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they've all felt protective.
Yeah, I just wanted to point that out because what I want to talk about is when Gus, his brother, is trying to figure out what is going on with Lars. He does Googling at work on the work computer. Or maybe it's the home computer. Anyway, because they have a computer at home too. But anyway, Gus is on the computer Googling, and he comes up with, and you see on the Ask Jeeves browser, it says delusional disorder, which is a diagnosis in the DSM. It's under like the psychotic disorders. It's in the same kind of family as schizophrenia, but it's not schizophrenia. Without having to go into all of the diagnosis criteria, I want people probably listening to think of delusional disorder as basically, it is a disorder where someone has a false belief, a fixed delusion that when presented with evidence or when presented with reality, like it doesn't go away, right? And they don't have any other symptoms of schizophrenia. So this is a person who's functioning normally for the most part. They just have a delusion, right? So they haven't decompensated to a point where they're not taking care of themselves, they're not sleeping, they're not having any physical symptoms, and then they're not having the other signs of schizophrenia, which would be like the hallucinations and paranoia and things like that. So you can have a delusion, and I've actually seen people in my career, I've seen 2 people that have had this diagnosis where they've had a delusion. They haven't had any other symptoms of schizophrenia, so then they end up with this diagnosis. So it is a valid diagnosis, and I think that that's what Lars does have. Like, so if I'm looking at
Well, what do you think caused him? What do you think the fact that he died in childbirth? Mm-hmm. He didn't die in childbirth. His mother died.
I was gonna say, I'm like, did he really die? I thought it was just his mom.
No, it was just his mother.
Yeah.
Just seeing you for paying attention.
Right.
And then growing up with his dad, who Gus made the comment that his dad was probably a name I made up, but his father is grief blind.
Yeah.
So his dad, he was the main caretaker, but he was just depressed and missing his wife. And I don't know, maybe it would be hard to have the child she gave birth to in the house because maybe, you could see people having resentment towards that child.
Yeah.
So it makes you, and that's one of the things Gus really regretted, that he had left him there alone with his dad.
Yeah.
With their dad. And also Gus was just like, I leave when I'm 18, you and I come back, Dad's dead.
When he says you and I, he's talking about Karen, the wife.
And Karen, yeah. And he says to Karen, we move into his home, and he moves to the garage, and we were okay with it. Why were we okay with it?
Right. So I think the reason this happens for Lars is because he obviously has a break with reality. Like he loses touch with reality. And I do think it's brought about by Karen's pregnancy and all of those feelings and thoughts that are being generated by the fact that, his sister-in-law, who is essentially his neighbor, is
And I
pregnant.
think he wouldn't have that reaction if he didn't love her,
right,
and his brother, and it's freaking him out
Yeah,
that she might die.
It's stressing him out, right. And I think Dagmar is right in what she says about why it's come about, because she explains to Karen and Gus, because they're like, why did this happen? And she essentially tells them he needs this. This is coming about because of a need. We don't know exactly what the need is, but it's filling something for him, and that's why she recommends that they just go along with it. And so, like I was saying, like, you would think that people would just kind of reject this and make fun of Lars, but ideally it's the opposite that happens. So people are a little hesitant, but they like tolerate Bianca, right? They're kind of like accepting the premise that she's a real person. But then what you really see, which is just great, is that she becomes a part of their community. Mm-hmm. Which is...
The ladies, they take her to the hairdresser. If you look at the transformation of Bianca...
Yeah.
From looking... not it.
You mean slutty? Is that what you're trying to say? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But I don't slut shame, so you can. So...
She's looking like...
She's looking more like that missionary nurse
by the end of it. Yeah.
And like they get her hair cut, and they, Lars comes home and wants to hang out with her, and they're like, oh no, she has a dinner, the volunteer dinner at the hospital or the hospice or nursing home, whatever. And he starts to get mad at her.
Yeah.
Because she's pulling away.
Well, because we see
she's having
fighting. She has a life of her own, right?
Right.
So, I mean...
And Margot is starting to date someone, and he does like Margot.
Right.
So he's having issues there with, like, well, I can't like her because I have Bianca.
Yeah.
And then Bianca's out getting her own life. How dare she?
I know. It's interesting because I think the time frame for this is only for a few months, right? Because Emily Mortimer, Karen is she's not very pregnant at the beginning, like maybe like a couple months along. I would say like maximum, just looking at her, like maybe like 4 months. And then by the end of the movie, she is like full blown pregnant. So let's say that this is happening, and it's actually happening over the winter because Bianca arrives in the wintertime, and then by spring at the end, she passes away. Spoiler. We're going to talk about that here in a second. But yeah, you really get to see like the life that Bianca's living because she gets a part-time job as a mannequin at a store. Which I was just like, perfect.
I want to know who's cashing those checks. That's all I want to know.
I know. How's Bianca getting paid?
Yeah.
So she becomes
Clothing.
Yeah, right. She becomes a mannequin for her job. She's reading to kids at school. She's a volunteer at the hospital. She goes to church with Lars. Bianca has a life.
My absolute, just one, it gives me such joy.
What?
Is the scene, it's towards the beginning when they're out in the woods and he's on the deer platform. And she's in the forest, just sitting there. And he's singing at the top of his lungs like Tiny Tim.
Right.
For those of you who do not know who Tiny Tim is, please go onto YouTube and look for Tiny Tim Tiptoe Through the Tulips. You'll be horrified, but you'll get the reference.
Right. Yeah, you won't be disappointed.
No, not at all.
You definitely get to see this other side of Lars that we're not seeing at the beginning, right? Because like we get this impression that his baseline is socially awkward. He doesn't engage much, even with his family. He goes to work. He comes home. He doesn't have much of a life, but he is getting a little bit of a life too. But he's tagging along with Bianca. Like at first, that's what it is, right? He's having to take her places and
Parties.
yeah.
Oh, God, the Christmas party.
No, it was the birthday party.
Oh, was it a birthday party?
It was the friend's birthday party.
It was Cindy.
Yeah,
that
Cindy.
was her
Yeah.
name, not Grace. Cindy.
Yeah.
Okay. For some reason, I thought, oh, it's so festive.
Yeah. I don't know. People are treating Bianca like she's a real person, which is just so...
Which is what he wanted.
Yeah. But then he's unhappy with it.
But then he does that thing when he gets emotional or he gets that squinting.
Are you talking about the blinking? It's the nervous blinking. Yeah. I think it's a nervous tick. That's what I thought it was. So I think Ryan Gosling and his portrayal of Lars, you know, his choices as an actor, I don't know if he was directed by the director or if it was part of the script for him to blink, but I think it's a nervous tick because he only does it when he seems like he's nervous or awkward or whatever. Because when he's with Bianca, he's not blinking and,
But when people start paying attention to her, he does on occasion.
He gets frustrated.
Yeah.
So it's just funny because, like you said, we get to see all of these things with Bianca, and we see people take care of her because Gus and even Karen are washing her, putting her to bed. They're combing her hair.
Laughing hysterically the whole time.
Yeah.
Because it's just so awkward that they have this naked sex doll in the tub, and it was great. I liked it.
Yeah. It is so funny. But so as things are kind of, I wouldn't say that they're unraveling, but I think that they're going not the way that he predicted, right? Like he is unsettled by the way that Bianca is having this life. And it's a life kind of without him, right? Like she's a volunteer at the hospital. She goes to the volunteers appreciation dinner or whatever. Oh, she gets elected to the school. Oh my God, Carrie.
She's on the school board.
I laughed out loud. That was the other thing is when he said that she's on the school board. And I'm like, wow.
My dad at one point looked at me and he's like, is this St. Olaf? Which that's a Golden Girls reference for
right, but I just can't. Like it's just like Bianca. Like I just can't. So
when they said she made it onto the school board, I'm just like, how does that happen? I looked at my dad and I'm like, people voted for her.
I mean, honestly, though, think about it, Carrie. Like, there's probably people who don't have much more of a presence or personality than Bianca that get elected to things like that. That's just true. Like, okay, that's my cynicism, but whatever.
Honestly, I think Bianca was probably the best woman for the job.
Yeah. But you see in Lars, there's a change because
He's being left behind.
Yeah.
Again.
But he's getting resentful because he's arguing with Bianca. And then there's the scene in the car. Like, there's the one argument that's in the bedroom because Bianca has plans that other people have made for her, right? Lars isn't a part of them. And Emily Mortimer, Karen, she asked, like, did you check her schedule, her calendar?
It's on the fridge.
It's on the fridge. I laughed at that part too. But so he's arguing with her there, but then also too, a couple scenes later, he has her in the car and he's arguing with her, but he's yelling and he slams the car door. So it's a little bit like, I'm not going to go on the line that it's like abusive, but it's starting to show like a more aggressive kind of aggravation.
Is that from the idea of abandonment?
No, I was just saying that like Lars is obviously not handling himself right. Like he's not coping well. And so he's becoming frustrated. And so he's expressing that with yelling at a person who cannot talk, right? Like if we're talking about Bianca as a person, she can't talk back, but he's getting very upset. Mm-hmm. But I think we're seeing that as the audience because again, Lars is presented at the very beginning as like a shy, very kind person who does what he's supposed to do and has like routines and doesn't. Right. But then by the end of this, where Bianca has come into his life and he is trying to cope with the fact that she has friends and she has other things that are outside of him, right? Because he controls at the beginning and then by the end, he's not in control of all of it. But he's obviously not doing well with that. So it's just a juxtaposition between how he is, at the beginning and then how he is. And so at some point, if this was a real situation, at some point he would be hospitalized. Not only because if Bianca suddenly appears and like having people, his expectation is that they're going to interact with her like a real person, but then he has all these mood changes. Like he becomes unhappy. People are noticing it. Like, Karen, that's Emily Mortimer's character again. Like Karen says, like, they never argue. Like there's a big, that's another part that I laughed because when Gus is like, what's going on?
I know. It's like, what's the hot goss?
Right. And she's like, they had an argument. And she pulls him into the room. Like it's like, again, like Bianca's a real person.
But also as you get towards the end and they're fighting and then she gets sick. I mean, that's a positive thing, right? Like he's starting to pull away from her and realizing, do you think he's realizing he doesn't need her? Because he has been having more conversations with Margot.
Well, and also other people too. Mm-hmm. People at work.
Yep.
And like because he's talking about Bianca, but he's also talking about himself. So yeah, I mean, he's having Mrs. Gruner or whatever other people like at church. It's not very limited. It's more of an expanded, engagement. So yeah, I think that her death is a symbolism of, like you said, he doesn't need her anymore, but like in order for him to move on, she needs to die.
Right.
Like just putting it as, because then
she is his little Christ.
Right. But then he doesn't need her as a crutch anymore. She's not a stand-in. She's not a support. Like if you think about like a emotional support animal, like a companion, like he doesn't need her anymore.
Right.
I think he's ready at that point then to engage with people who can interact back. Because I do think there's a couple scenes toward the end, like the middle to the end, where we see him interacting with Bianca. This is when he's becoming frustrated, right? This is different from when she's at the very beginning and he's very loving and he's like tender and things like that. But he becomes frustrated because he sees Margot interacting with Jerry, even though, whatever, other people at work, he sees
Steve.
Her, but
she dated Steve.
Right. Yeah, Steve, who she broke up with, but he sees Margot interacting with other people. And I think he's thinking like, why can't I have that? Well, you can't have that because your significant other is a inanimate object. So, yeah. So I think we see that juxtaposition. We see that kind of comparison. I think that's kind of what starts getting his wheels turning too. But yeah, so suddenly Bianca is sick and she is lying in the bed and Ryan Gosling, Lars is trying to wake her up and she's unconscious. She's not
all breathing. Of a sudden you hear this high-pitched scream.
I know that that was a little jostling for me, right?
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I knew that happened in the movie because obviously I've seen it before, but I forgot about how, it's
a desperate wail.
Ryan Gosling brings some emotion to that, right?
He really does. You believe it. He's terrified.
Well, obviously, Emily Mortimer's character, too, Karen does, because she's like, call 911. And Gus is like, call 911? Like, he's like, are we really doing this? And then Karen's like, yes, call 911. So,
which actually was probably a huge help for Lars in letting go.
Well, yeah, but she's riding. You see her in the ambulance.
I know.
And Lars's car is riding behind, like, to the hospital. Like, I just love it so much. Yeah.
But then just when he comes out and then Dagmar comes out. And
But they call for Dagmar right when they're pulling in. I don't know who says it. I think it's a staff member at the hospital. They must be aware of this situation because they're like, call Dagmar.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, it's one of Dagmar's.
Yeah.
Go
Right.
ahead and call her.
Yeah. So she arrives, and so it kind of gets explained that Bianca is dying.
And that she's not the one who's doing it because Karen, the sister-in-law, says to her...
Well, she's invested in Bianca right now.
She really is. I mean, let's face it, a big life-size doll would be fantastic and fun to dress up.
I mean, every
girl,
hey, maybe some boys too have wanted to have a doll to dress up. So yeah.
Of course. Well, isn't there anything you can do? Why is this happening? And Dagmar says he's doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This
Lars
is him being able to let go.
He's running it. Yeah. This is all him.
And the funeral.
Carrie, I cried at that funeral. I'm going to
I cried too.
Okay, so listen, people, when you watch this movie, if you haven't seen it already, I know it's ridiculous to think that you're crying at a pretend funeral for a pretend person, but it's very poetic and it's very poignant. I don't know.
And they talk about what a good person she was and
yeah.
all of the good work she had done.
I know, I started crying. And how much she loved Lars, and the pastor's like, and she loved Lars above all, especially Lars. And I just started crying. I'm like, oh my God.
And then, standing outside, they were all going to go back for the meal at the house, and Margot comes up to him, and it's on.
Right, but the funny thing is that they bury Bianca in the cemetery with, like, where Lars' parents are. Yeah. I don't know, is her plot right next to them, or?
I could have sworn it was.
I think it was, yeah. Isn't that hilarious? Oh, that's the other thing, too. We didn't mention this earlier, but as part of this storyline, Lars asks Bianca to marry him.
Yes.
And she says no. That's where I think those are the first cracks, though. Yeah, that's the first crack.
And everyone was really confused because they were like, what do you mean she said no?
Right.
And that is where you first start to see those cracks.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering, I know he was socially awkward, but before the delusion set in.
Yeah.
Like, Karen said this is unusual for him to avoid us and not come to dinner. So there had been closeness there.
Right. I do think that Lars, probably as his character, was just a socially awkward person. But yeah, like you said, Karen was knowing that something was up because she had sensed the decomposition and not decomposition. That's like a dead body. The decline. She sensed it, and she, that's why she made the remarks that she did. And I do think Lars was probably, before this situation, he was a person that would have just, like, maybe out of social pressure, just felt like even if he was uncomfortable, just said okay. And he just wasn't doing that anymore. So I think it was more of a concern about maybe depression. And I think again, we've talked about this, like, there is a theme of sadness underneath. The fact that, like...
And just kind of loneliness and feeling like you don't belong.
Yeah, getting a connection with...
Yeah, which... I don't know anyone who hasn't felt that at some point.
No. Lars did something that he felt like would make sense to him in essentially purchasing and ordering and, customizing Bianca. Like,
do you think they ever vodo'd?
I don't know. I think there's
and that's a reference to Laverne and Shirley.
I know. I do think that there's a suggestion of it in the movie because he brings up to Gus about sex, and then they have the night alone.
They have a sleepover in the pink room.
Right, which we don't ever see anything, but I think it's suggested that something happens.
That something, maybe even if it's not full on sex, something.
Right. Because he kisses her in the movie a couple times, but like
his mother's bedroom.
I know, but it's like up until
his dead mother's bedroom.
Carrie, don't judge. We listen, we don't judge.
I'm not judging.
You're just commenting.
We've all had sex in weird places, but
speak for yourself, woman. I don't. Obviously, okay, so there's a big theme about love in the movie. So all kinds of love. Familial love, romantic love, friendship love, community love, love of your community, love of...
And what you do for the people you love.
Right, well, and also taking care of one another. Like, so they take care of Lars. And I do think that, like, at the beginning of the movie, Lars was so in his head. He was so much in his feelings and what he was going through. Having to process Karen's pregnancy and kind of consolidate that with his own history, his own...
That must have been horribly triggering for him.
Yeah. And I think Gus, when he's feeling his guilt and he's feeling his feelings and he's telling Karen about how he feels like they somehow contributed to this, I think he's aware of the fact that, like, Lars is going through it, and it's something that they can't necessarily understand completely, but he's aware of it too. But I don't know. It's just a lovely story about how the community comes together. And
it really is. To hear it described is probably wild, but I would encourage, even if you've watched it years ago,
yeah,
watch it again, because it's kind of just like this little world where, this is how we treat people. This is how we should treat people.
This is how we should, especially if they're going through a crisis. I mean, not only should this be how we treat people every day, just on the regular, but if they're going through something, this is how we can come together. This is how your community can heal you.
Yeah.
And I think we see that with Lars. And
I think there's just so much judgment in the world for anything that's perceived as different. Although I don't know who makes up these rules of, that's outside the mainstream.
Right.
That's not good. That's bad. Like, why are you acting like that? It's like, well, why?
I think the main thing we have to keep in mind, too, though, of looking at this movie, and if we compare or think about it in other situations, Lars's delusion wasn't hurting anybody, right?
True.
So I think that's why it was allowed to kind of go on. But I don't want anyone to get any ideas that, like, it's okay for all delusions to persist, because there are delusions that people have that are not healthy and not safe, and they can be harmful.
Yeah.
Yes. So I think if the story was different and Lars had a delusion, let's think of, like, the story was completely revised and reimagined, and Lars had a delusion that was harmful, none of this would have happened the way it did. But because he was giving his love to an inanimate object, and again, wasn't causing any major disruptions to his life, like he still went to church, he still went to work, he still ate, drank, all did that stuff, right? It was allowed to go on. But, like, in the real world, and even as part of a different story that was fictional, if the delusion had been harmful, it wouldn't have gone on like it did. That's my...
So, Kenzie, who was the real girl?
I think Bianca was the real girl.
Really?
Do you think it was Margot?
Yeah. Because he ends up with Bianca, who's not real, and at the end, he ends up... This whole journey has taken him to Margot.
Yeah.
So I've always just thought... I thought it was Lars and the real girl. It was a very long and twisted road.
I think it could be... I don't know. I think it could be Margot, but I also think that Bianca becomes real for other people, though.
That's
I think it could be a metaphor that Bianca she is a real girl, and that what other people made her. Mm-hmm. Like, she wasn't just real for Lars. She became, look at all the people that she touched. And the fact that, like, when Lars, again, he decided that she's dying, look how it affected people.
People cried.
Right. I mean, we cried. And we're not even part of the story, but, the thing is, like, I think people were sad and they were concerned about Lars, because I think most people in this storyline understand that, like, Lars is, he's taking them along for this journey. And so I think they were concerned about him, but at the same time, like, people had accepted her. She had become a part of their lives too. And so now that she was ending, I think it was sad. So I still think that Bianca was the real girl. Okay. Yeah. It could be Margot too, because I do like your interpretation that, like, he goes through a unreal situation to get a real girl at the end. So Carrie, love it, like it.
Love it.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
I'm between like it and love it. I do.
What?
Yeah. I don't know because the thing is, like, I don't know. I definitely like it. I don't know if I could say I love it, because I don't feel like it's something I could put on all the time. I have to be in the mood to watch it, because it's a different type of movie.
You have to pay attention.
You do. You have to pay attention. There's lots of little details. Also, too, like, you have to... I have to be in the right mindset to be emotionally invested, because it's not... There aren't scenes that, like, grab your attention all the time. So I don't know. I don't think I can quite love it, but I definitely like it. And I definitely enjoyed watching it again. I'll probably watch it again in the future, but it's not something I can say that I'll put on all the time to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I've not watched it in years.
Yeah.
But I do. I love it. Mm-hmm. I think there are so many great themes. I love the way they treat Lars. Yeah. I love Dagmar. Mm-hmm. But that might just be because I love Patricia Clarkson. She's great. I think she's great. Yeah. But yeah,
It's a good one.
It's a good one.
Yeah. Definitely watch it if you haven't seen it.
Please. Yeah. And then let us know what you think.
Yeah, let us know if you cry at the funeral too.
Because we're pathetic.
we're are just big old softies over here. Well, okay, again, I'm speaking for myself, Carrie. I won't speak for you. You're a hardened, villain.
I'm a badass bitch.
The voice you say it in
I know.
It's the antithesis of being a badass bitch. It's great.
So, what
We are not picking let's explain. Carrie and I had some confusion about recording, and so we were concerned that we wouldn't have time to record this episode and then also have to be able to pick another movie to record the next episode. So I called her frantically on Sunday and I said, "Hey, we're going to have another recording session. We need to have time to watch the movie and then also take our notes so that we can compare our notes. You need to pick a movie now." So I called her frantically. I said, "Pick a movie." So Carrie, what movie did you pick on Sunday?
Well, I came down to our lair here in the basement. And
Yep.
if you guys saw it down here, you'd be like, "Oh yeah, real lair, guys."
Yep.
But and so I came down. I even did the whole ASMR thing still.
I got it for you guys. I had the experience, so.
And it's Boys Don't Cry with Hilary Swank.
Which, yeah, Carrie and I have
And
not
Chloe
seen that.
Sevigny.
Yep, we haven't seen that movie, neither of us. So it's
Neither
going to
of
be,
us.
it's going to be a
I
experience.
remember when it came out, and I'm like, "Oh God, I don't know if I can stand it."
Yeah.
Just so sad.
Yeah. I don't remember, what did Hilary, so I knew it wasn't her first movie, Hilary Swank, because she'd been on something before that.
Yeah.
Because I remember when it came
But it
out, I was like,
was-
"Oh, Hilary Swank's doing this," but I can't remember what she was in before that.
Yeah, and just how different she looked because she had cut her hair and gotten.
Yeah.
I think she lost a lot of weight for that, or they had to bind her.
Yeah. I remember, so I was much younger when it came out, and I do remember, again, I remember the Oscars, watching that with my family because that's the same Oscars, Hillary was nominated and Chloe Sevigny was nominated, and that was the one that Angelina Jolie won, which we talked about in the Girl Interrupted episode. But I remember watching that, and I was like, so the premise of the movie is like Hilary Swank's character, which I'm just going to briefly say it, she is transitioning, she's essentially trans, and I did not understand that as a young child. Like, I wasn't even a teenager yet, I don't think, when this movie came out. So I was like, what? But as an adult now, I can definitely have an appreciation for it. But if I had seen it when it came out, I would not have appreciated it.
That's like, they've not done a Matthew Shepard, like, big movie. There have been TV.
Yeah.
And that's another one. I couldn't even,
That's such a sad story.
it's too much.
Yeah. There are some things that we don't need to watch for our mental health. So, I mean, that's a reminder here in Mental Health Awareness Month. Take care of your mental health, protect your peace. If there's something that could be triggering to you or that you're not in a right place to watch, don't do it. Back to Lars and the Real Girl, I don't think that that's a movie that you need to, avoid because I don't think it's particularly triggering, but,
But then again, we don't know your triggers.
That's true. I shouldn't assume. But anyway, it's a great movie. Definitely watch it. We're going to be watching Boys Don't Cry, and we will review that for the next episode. Watch out on our social media accounts for the posts about the giveaways, and, pay attention to those because it'll tell you how to enter. And yeah, until our next episode.
See you then.
Bye.